Hey everyone, so the December 15th balance patch is upon us and Ragnaros has joined the roster for Heroes of the Storm. There's also been huge reworks for a variety of warriors that includes Dehaka, Artemis amongst some. In this quick build guide I just wanted to go through his new talents and to suggest a build that I think works best for him. I will say that having had a brief look before I started recording this video, I think a lot of the flow of his talent still revolves heavily around Dark Swarm, or it revolves purely around Essence Collection. So really there's a couple of variables and it's up to you how you'll want to build Dehaka. First up is Enduring Swarm at level 1. While active, Dark Swarm reduces damage taken from spells by 40%. That's considerable mitigation, especially against heavy hitters such as Jaina or Li Ming. Primal Aggression, the more offensive variable on Dark Swarm. It increases its duration by 0.5 seconds and it deals an additional 100% damage to minions and mercenaries. It's particularly good on Dehaka if you want to spend time in lane, soloing minion camps, or if you need to gain essence quickly as possible. It does work particularly well on small maps where you can rotate lanes quickly. It also works on large lanes if you've got the time to, say, go top and then use your brush stalker to go, say, to mid or bottom quickly. Enhanced agility, honestly, it's a pretty terrible talent as far as I can see. Each time Dehaka collects 50 essence, his brush stalker movement speed bonus is permanently increased by 1% up to 10%. It's going to take you an age to achieve. Gaining 50 essence up to 10 times is going to be exhausting. It's absolutely, for a 10% movement speed bonus, just avoid enhanced agility completely. Tissue regeneration, this is all about sustain. It can work pretty well on Battlefield of Eternity if you need health return. So each time you collect 50 essence, your health regen is permanently increased by 5 up to 50. I think that's absolutely fine on paper. In practice, I'd probably say Enduring Swarm and Primal Aggression are much more sought after. Personally, I tend to take Enduring Swarm because it's pretty common to come up against an ability damage heavy composition. But Primal Aggression is fantastic if you want the ability to clear waves and gain essence quickly. Level 4 talents, Lurker Strain. Burrow grants stealth for 3 seconds. Emerging from Burrow knocks nearby enemies back and slows them by 30% for 2 seconds. Now, before this wasn't that great, but you can now exit Burrow early, which gives you control over when you knock enemies away and when you actually activate the stealth, which is really nice. Let me just toggle these cooldowns. The alternatives are One Who Collects, so increases essence collected from minions by 50%, which pairs really well with Primal Aggression. Or Hero Stalker, increases essence gained from takedowns by 100%. His essence collection from heroes is 10. So effectively you just get double that from killing heroes, which is pretty significant, and I would say in terms of long-term essence acquisition, Hero Stalker is often the best choice because towards mid and late game, the first towers are going to be down and the first forts are going to be down, and your ability to lane effectively and acquire essence from minions is diminished significantly. So certainly Hero Stalker is my preferred one here, just to demonstrate Lurker Strain. So this gives you stealth, which is pretty nice. So you can determine when you use it. That's a really nice survivability. I think if I was a solo tank, I'd be really tempted with Lurker Strain at the moment. But for me, I'm still going to go Enduring Swarm and Hero Stalker just because of the intake of essence that provides late game. Level 7 talent, Feeding Frenzy. Basic attacks reduce Drag's cooldown by 1.5 seconds. The cooldown on Drag's pretty hefty at 15. You would need a significant amount of basics to really shave any significant amount of time off that one. Constriction, a real favourite, increases drag duration by 0.5 seconds. The default is 1 7.5, so it brings it up to a little 2.25, which is pretty good. Symbiosis reduces Dark Swarm's cooldown against heroes by 0.5 seconds every time it damages a hero. Let me just turn these cooldowns off. So you can see there the time's getting pretty shaved. There's Essence Devourer. Regen Globes increase max essence. So Regen Globes grant 10 essence and increase maximum essence by 1 up to 10. After collecting 10, Regeneration Globes will instead grant 15 essence. This talent can work really well on maps such as Battlefield of Eternity when you successfully defeat an immortal, and it lands every time, providing 2. And then obviously the supply from minion camps and lanes does allow you to keep and maintain a huge amount of essence. Really, you'll rarely be without it. So for me, it's a toss-up really. If you want the extra crowd control and a longer stun and longer drag so that your team can capitalise on someone that's incapacitated, Constriction is really good. Symbiosis is also fantastic if you are in amongst multiple heroes. If you can hit at least 2 at a time, shaving off 1 second for every contact between multiple foes is really nice, especially if you hit 2 or more. And then Essence Devourer, again, if you're going to spend a lot of time in lane or on maps that supply a large amount of globes, it is very, very good. My preferred is Symbiosis here, simply because it is the damage version, I suppose. And it really does allow you to not only keep Dark Swarm active, but it ties in nicely with Enduring Swarm. So effectively you have significant potential to maintain 40% ability damage reduction against yourself. But like I said, there are variables, Constriction and Essence Devourer. At level 10, I'm a little bit undecided at the moment, simply because Isolation causing damage, silencing and slowing a target by 30% for 3 seconds is pretty amazing. But Adaptation has seen its damage returned increase from 60% to 100%, but that's only after 4 seconds. The question really remains as to whether you as Dehaka can survive for 4 seconds, because really Adaptation is there to ensure you don't have to always use Essence Collection. So I'll just show it now. So it's pretty nice. I think if you are solo tank, it's probably a very, very good idea to take. If you are off tank, I still think Isolation is the better. But if we're to assume on this build that you are the solo tank or the solo warrior, then for me, Adaptation is a really good choice. What I would recommend, however, is that you preempt incoming damage. So don't use it when you're already under fire. Use it when, even if it's 1 or 2 seconds before, when you know you're going to have a huge amount of damage used against you. Trigger Adaptation, then eat the damage, and then get the health returned. For level 13, Swift Pursuit, Brushstroker's bush movement speed bonus now lasts for 3 seconds after leaving a bush, which is nice if you are attempting to secure a gank, so obviously you can use the Z and then fly out. Prevents anyone from escaping easily. Brushstroker's Ferocious Stalker, Brushstalker increases damage by 25% for 10 seconds. Again, it's working on the principle that you will use your Brushstalker and then run straight onto lane in order to drag someone and then trigger your Dark Swarm. It's a considerable damage buff, especially because it also works on basics and abilities. And then Primal Swarm, so Dark Swarm makes enemies vulnerable. Dark Swarm causes enemies hit to take 15% extra damage for 0.75 seconds. Now, the duration on that is tiny, but if you can hit multiple foes and reduce the cooldown of Dark Swarm by and through symbiosis, it's actually very, very good. And effectively you can plough through a group of enemy heroes. The fact that Dark Swarm lets you bypass really, really helps. Did that cause vulnerability on Arthas then? Didn't look like it was. Let's move this up a bit. Come back, Arthas. Okay, so it has, yeah, fine. Yeah, so it's really, really nice. I think definitely my preferred here. If you are after ganking potential, I would take Swift Pursuit over Ferocious Stalker, simply because most skill players simply hear Dehaka's Brush Stalker sound and will begin to navigate away from any nearby bushes or vents, and that significantly lowers the potential for Ferocious Stalker and its viability. Whereas Swift Pursuit can pretty much guarantee that you can net anyone even if they begin to run away early. But my favoured is Primal Swarm, simply because it pairs into Enduring Swarm, Symbiosis as well. At level 16, Paralysing enemy drag slows enemies by 50% for 2 seconds after it ends. It's particularly good because it's a double dose of crowd control, although the duration is brief. Elongated Tongue increases drag range by 20%. Very, very useful, undeniably good. And Tunneling Claws, so Dehaka can move while burrowed. My typical favourite is Elongated Tongue, simply because the extended range is incredibly useful for making a pick in a team fight. But Tunneling Claws is also very, very good right now, simply because it gives Dehaka a little bit of mobility and a little bit of unpredictability, I suppose. Just to demonstrate it. So it's actually really quick and more than enough to give you time to escape or create a little bit of space and buy yourself time. It also pairs in really well with Lurker Strain, so if you are a solo warrior, taking Lurker Strain and Tunneling Claws gives you tons of survivability. So it is a really, really nice talent, and it allows you to be a bit of a nuisance on the backline without necessarily using Dark Swarm as well. So yeah, personal favourite is Elongated Tongue or Tunneling Claws. For this build, I would recommend Tunneling Claws simply because it can save your life if your essence is low, and you don't necessarily need the stealth in order to get the value from it. If you find that you are against a melee or frontline heavy composition, Elongated Tongue can be particularly good because it means you don't have to get quite as close in order to pull someone out of position. And then lastly, changes survival, increases adaptation healing to 200% of the damage received and reduces the cooldown by 30 seconds. Honestly, I don't see the point in this talent at all. I mean, you already get 100% of the damage back over 4 seconds, which is significant, and depending on how much burst you get determines how much you get back. I think 200's a little bit overkill, even with the shaved cooldown. Apex Predator, still really good, so it reduces Brush Stalker's cooldown by 25 seconds, and its cast time by 0.5 seconds. So it basically halves the cooldown, which is amazing on maps such as Dragonshire, where you need to rotate quickly. It's really good on Brax's Holdout as well. Or Essence Claws, so Dehaka's basic attacks slow the target by 20% for 1 second, and if the target is a hero, he gains 5 essence per attack, which simply put is incredible. So just to use my essence and show you. Oh, what's happening there? There we go. So you can see that going up 11, 16, 21. Now look at the sustain on that, it's ridiculous. It's just absolutely incredible. And the fact that you slow them as well, combined with increased essence gain on takedown, pretty much guarantees your intake of essence. You can obtain 50 so easy within a few seconds. So late game, it gives unrivaled sustain, and I would have to say it absolutely does pip Apex Predator. Unless, of course, you are on a really large map where you need that travel time to snowball the enemy team. So yeah, that's my recommended build. It is Enduring Swarm at level 1. Primal Aggression as a variable if you need wave clear, or if you're on a small map where you need to be able to take down minions quickly. Hero Stalker simply because mid and end game you will be limited on your essence acquisition from lanes alone, but Lurker Strain is a fantastic variable if you're a single warrior. Symbiosis as the next, simply because lowering the cooldowns against multiple heroes, and you will typically hit more than one at once, ensures that you permanently maintain your 40% ability damage mitigation. But Essence Devourer is also a really good variable if you're on a map that's small, where you can lane hop regularly, or a map that's objective based that supplies globes often. Adaptation is my preferred at the moment, as long as you use it a little bit ahead of any incoming damage, because the 100% damage return just gives so much more sustain. If you are in a double warrior composition, however, isolation can be incredibly useful. Level 13, Primal Swarm, simply because vulnerability, as we all know, is amazing, and it not only increases your damage by 15%, but also your team's, and if you can stay on a single target while using drag against them, it pretty much ensures that they are going to take a huge amount of burst. Tunneling Claws is my level 16 recommendation, because it gives some much needed mobility to Dehaka, and it also ensures that you can escape from a fight, which typically you can't if a Dark Swarm is on cooldown. Variable is Elongated Tongue, because the drag range of 20% increase will always remain useful, especially if the enemy team has a strong ranged presence or a strong front line. And then lastly, Essence Claws, because it is an outrageous talent that gives unrivaled sustain for Dehaka, and within a few seconds not only guarantees you will have 50 essence, but also prevents you relying on having to lane to acquire essence during late game. So there's the build. If you've got any questions, let me know. I'll also reiterate the build in the description below.